Good afternoon.
Chad.
Have you been briefed or heard anything about this plot by this fellow they picked up in Columbus, Ohio, had the plot to kill President George W. Bush, came across the southern border? Any reaction to that? And then have you heard
No, I haven't heard about that until just recently, and don't have any comments on it yet.
Leader McConnell, tomorrow the Senate Foreign Relations Committee will have a hearing about Iran nuclear deal. All members of your party, except one senator, are opposed to going back to Iran nuclear deal. If that deal in fact fails, what do you think the options are for the United States of America in terms of containing the Iran nuclear program?
Well, it's pretty apparent that if the administration ends up negotiating a deal with the Iranians, they will not submit it as a treaty. Without a treaty, it's not a binding agreement on the United States, and therefore the next president could choose to walk away from it. I think I'm pretty safe in saying our allies in the Middle East, the Israelis, the Sunni Arab countries that are allied with us, are deeply disturbed that this agreement might come together, because they're pretty sure it will not have anything to do with Iran's malign activities, their collateral activities, which promote and encourage terrorism throughout the Middle East. So I'm skeptical about whether this agreement would be in the best interest of America. We'll have to see whether they submit it.
But if it in fact fails,
I hear what you're saying about the record turnout in Georgia. Some Democrats and voting rights activists would argue, well, their efforts are paying off. What would you say to that argument? That they're saying that their efforts to double down on getting more voters to turn out are paying off versus...
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
What would you say? Some Democrats and some voting rights activists say that it's their efforts that are paying off that are causing the record turnout in Georgia. What would you say to that argument?
Well, I think it's been disproven. There's no effort anywhere in America, in any state in America, to suppress voting. But, as Senator Blunt pointed out, it's also important to make it not easy to cheat. So what you want to do is encourage voter turnout, make it easier to vote and harder to cheat. And I think it's pretty obvious the new Georgia law achieved that desirable outcome. It's interesting, in national poll data, people think it actually is too easy to vote if you're looking at public opinion. I think Georgia hit the sweet spot. They obviously encouraged and made it easier to vote, but also made it harder to cheat.
Leader McConnell, on Taiwan, is the U.S. policy change toward Taiwan based on the President's comment that we will defend it militarily if attacked by China? And secondly, the fact that Taiwan was not included in the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, Jake Sullivan has talked about forming some kind of stronger trade relationship with Taiwan. Is that enough consolation for not including it in the framework?
Number one, the single most important thing we could do to send a message to the Chinese is to continue to help the Ukrainians defeat Putin. That's the view of the Prime Minister of Japan, the view of the Defense Minister of Japan, that the single most important thing we could do to push back against President Xi is to help the Ukrainians beat Putin in the war that's going on right now. I gather, after walking back the President's comments, the administration has basically said that the policy under previous administrations remains the same. My suggestion is, to this administration, sell to the Taiwanese the weapons they would need that are appropriate for any potential Chinese invasion. And that is the single strongest thing we could do to help the Taiwanese, just like we're helping the Ukrainians, defend themselves if, in fact, they're attacked. That, in my view, is a serious deterrent. Number one, send a message to Xi by beating Putin in Ukraine. Number two, by selling to the Taiwanese the weapons they need to defend themselves if, in fact, they're attacked.
Leader McConnell.